Welcome back. Cosmic Circus Reviews. Today we're talking about Ahsoka. That's right. The latest live-action Star Wars series has finally ended. And I'm here to give you guys a spoiler review of the whole series. I'm not the one to make early reactions to shows that I've watched. People were talking about how Ahsoka is the best Star Wars series yet after seeing 2 episodes. You can't make that statement. You cannot make that statement. It's like when people said that Secret Invasion was Marvel's Andor after only watching 2 episodes. You cannot make a statement as bold as this unless you've seen the whole thing. And we all know how Secret Invasion turned out. Good news is that Ahsoka was actually really good. I do have some issues with it. I don't think it's the best Star Wars show, but it pales in comparison to what we've gotten in the past with Bad Batch Season 2, Mandalorian Season 3, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi. They were all terrible. If you don't know my stance on Star Wars, I feel like Star Wars needs to move away from the Skywalker saga to evolve, because now we're stuck in a cycle of just cameos that make no sense within the context of the story and boring action sequences that aren't necessarily shot with a good amount of style. The only show that really kind of decided to move away and do something that was aesthetically different and thematically different was Andor. Andor wasn't concerned with fan service or with just cameos that were there for you to artificially react to it, just to point at the screen because you know who that person is, even if it makes no sense that person is in the show. They weren't concerned with that. They were just concerned with telling a good story, right? And yes, there were a couple of references to the expanded Star Wars universe, but it wasn't as shoved in as something like The Mandalorian, where The Mandalorian is literally just cameos. It's just, oh, look, here's Cad Bane. Oh, look, here's Ahsoka. Oh, look, here's de-aged Luke Skywalker. Which is honestly one of the very worst moments in Star Wars history. I kid you not. It was the ending of The Mandalorian Season 2 when Mark Hamill showed up as Luke Skywalker, de-aged, deep-faked, whatever. It looked awful, and I felt nothing. If it was a younger actor playing Luke, I would have felt something, maybe. But, as it stands, it was not very good. And so I was a little bit worried about Ahsoka. The trailers didn't really do anything to me. But I really have to say the show is actually really enjoyable. And the first 4 episodes, I will say, are probably the best of the Mandoverse episodes we've gotten so far. Episode 4, in particular, the battle in Cetos in the forest, is amazing. Some of the lightsaber battles in the show were straight up just phenomenal. Some of them weren't, especially in the finale, right, where they clearly fight behind a volume. They don't necessarily seem to be in the same frame. The horizon's in the middle. It looks terrible. But there is a real sense of skill in the first 4 episodes in terms of technical mastery and in terms of also doing stuff with lightsabers that we really haven't seen before. And that's what I really liked about the action and about the cinematography and about the technical elements in the first 4 episodes. And I was also really invested in the characters. I don't think the show would have worked if the characters weren't interesting. But, Dave Filoni, he created Ahsoka with George Lucas. And so he loves, and I wouldn't say he loves, he completely adores Ahsoka Tano with all of his heart. And Ahsoka Tano is one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars franchise. In my opinion, the best show in Star Wars history is the Clone Wars. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and Rebels is a close second, because one of the reasons why the show is so good is we get to really see an evolution and a progression within the arc of someone like Ahsoka Tano, who evolved through time. And one of the most shocking scenes in that whole thing is when she realizes that Darth Vader is her master. And the way that it's handled is done in a way that yes, that he is Anakin, but you feel it, because we're looking at it through Ahsoka's point of view, and it's It's absolutely remarkable. And so I'm a huge fan of the Clone Wars. I'm a huge fan of Rebels, but I was really worried about the show. Really, really worried that it was going to fall through the same pitfalls that we have seen in the Star Wars franchise with, glup shitto cameos of just people just showing up randomly. And there was, C-3PO, did he need to be in the show? No. Absolutely not. Hu Yang, who says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which alludes to, of course, the opening text of every single main Star Wars movie. Do you need to say that? Absolutely not. Did we need to see a shot of Anakin marching with clone troopers? Right, Clone Wars Anakin marching with clone troopers, and then there's a flash that shows him as Darth Vader with the red lightsaber. Of course not. We know that that he becomes Darth Vader. This of course alludes to the fact that Anakin Skywalker at some point becomes Darth Vader, as if we didn't know that already. There isn't a single person in the world, even people that haven't watched Star Wars, that don't know the plot twist of Empire Strikes Back at this point, except the babies, because babies can't don't understand words. I mean, they can understand sounds, but they can't speak. So babies don't understand how the world works, and therefore are protected from the twist that Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. But we all know that. Do we need to watch this? No. Did we need to see Captain Rex and the world between worlds flashbacks? No, we did not. We did not. But the show is still pretty good. And my issues come after the 5th episode. When the 5th episode started to play, then I had some storytelling issues. But before that, it really is incredible. It brilliantly captures the heart and spirit of, Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels, by also continuing the storylines of these two respective animated shows. And again, it wouldn't have worked if the characters weren't interesting and if the performances weren't good. But thankfully, most of the performances in this show are terrific. Rosario Dawson, at first, I wasn't really into her portrayal of Ahsoka, especially in the first episode. I was like, I don't know. She's kind of flat. I'm a little worried. Whatever. Just keep going. But every single episode, even episodes that I weren't a fan of, she was great. She was really, really, really good and gave her 110% throughout the show. And there's a specific moment in I think it was the second or third episode. I think it was the third episode where she fights. I forget. She fights some spaceships. I think they were TIE fighters. I may be wrong. She does this backflip in zero gravity, and that's pure Ahsoka. That's like Clone Wars era Ahsoka, and like that specific moment. Rosario Dawson plays that moment and is the perfect embodiment of, what Ahsoka does. She always strives for the impossible. Even if her master tells him, don't do it, she would do it. She would do it. She would be very, she would do her own thing because she would, because she believed that it was the right thing to do. And I found Rosario Dawson's portrayal of Ahsoka throughout the episodes, kept maybe the first opening moments of the first episode to be pretty good. But I was mostly impressed by the supporting performances more than the lead performances. Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who plays Sabine Wren, one of the core characters in Rebels, is absolutely fantastic. She's probably my favorite of the main supporting protagonists in the show. She had the most development from the moment that we get reintroduced to her to the finale. She gets the most development. She has the most fully formed arc. And she is really, really good. And the chemistry that she shares with one of the villains, Shin Hati, played by Ivana Sakno, a villain that a lot of people looked at their screen and said, I can fix her, even though you can't, because she's a Boken Jedi. That chemistry that they have, people were shipping it online. I'm like, yeah, you know what? They should just kiss and make up already, because they're fighting for the third time again. Why in the hell are they fighting? They should just be on the same side, because she was a Jedi, but she kind of drifted, and she's a little bit she's exploring the dark side a little bit, while her master is in this moral gray area. I found that really fascinating. For those who have seen Rebels, right, and the Clone Wars, the experience of watching Ahsoka in a live action show will be very enriching. But I doubt that people that have not watched these shows will enjoy it as much as the fans of Rebels have, because the whole crux of the show is really based off if you've actually seen the animated series. And as someone that has seen the animated series and that absolutely loves both animated series, seeing some of these characters on screen was a dream come true, right? The reunion between Ezra Bridger, played by Iman Esfandi, and Sabine Wren is possibly one of the best moments of the entire live-action Star Wars catalog that we have right now. It's done so well. Iman Esfandi is excellent as Ezra Bridger, even though his screen time is a little limited because he's the core of the show is about Ahsoka, Sabine, and Hera Syndulla, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, attempting to find Grand Admiral Thrawn, played by Lars Mikkelsen, or Blue Elon Musk. And once they are able to find him, they will find Ezra Bridger, because Ezra Bridger in Rebels essentially kind of sacrificed himself to keep Thrawn at bay, but they lost him, right? But now they found him, and now they're going to Peridea, which is the planet that he's there to find Thrawn, but also really more importantly to find Ezra Bridger and bring him home. But if they do that, they're also going to bring Thrawn out of exile and unleash his master plan, which Thrawn, and I'll probably talk about Thrawn right now because Thrawn is a joke. he is the worst part of the show, like 100% the worst part of the show. First of all, I mean, the blue makeup looks terrible. And it really makes Lars Mikkelsen, a man who does not look like Elon. He does not look like Elon Musk. In this show, he looks exactly like Elon Musk, and it's frightening, absolutely frightening. It's so disconcerting how terrible the makeup looks on this guy. I think the makeup in the show for Ahsoka, for Hera, for some of the protagonists, the hair and makeup looks great, absolutely really great. But the makeup on Thrawn, awful, absolutely terrible, and the performance isn't really good too. The problem that I have with Thrawn is really the fundamental problem that I have with the latter half of the show, which is that the latter half of the show is really concerned about setting things up for what's to come. And I feel like this is what most franchise titles do, which is we are going to present this threat, or we're going to present an overarching plot line, and we're just going to set things up for what's to come. And therefore, there isn't an ending. I think the most obvious example that I can give for that is in Loki, the first season of Loki, where the first episode is literally Loki and Sylvie sitting down and talking with Kang, who is going to be, the big bad guy of the whole multiverse saga, essentially setting up the next titles of film and TV series that we're going to get. But there's no ending, right? The episode ends with a statue of Jonathan Majors as Kang, and then goes, Loki will return in season 2, teasing the Kang dynasty. But there's no ending. And in this show, in Ahsoka, Thrawn is not a menacing villain, right? He's not a menacing antagonist whatsoever, because he's just there to say, hello, my name is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Are you enjoying me? I hope you do, because you'll see much more of me very soon. But there's no development. He doesn't really do anything. He orders people, he orders Shin Hati and Balin Skull, played by the late great Ray Stevenson, to kill Sabine and Ahsoka and Ezra, if she does find Ezra. But doesn't really do anything. He's too busy essentially putting his plan in motion. But what is his plan? I don't know. He wants to get out of Peridea to start a war, and that's it. I guess at some point we'll know what his real plan is. He has the show ends with him going to Dathomir, right? And he has a bunch of caskets in his ship. That's cool, but what do you want to do? Do you want to awaken all these people, all these dead people up for your dead army? Is that it? All right. But there needed to be, I think, more clarification, more substance for us to make us feel damn, they can't really choose between rescuing Ezra and killing Thrawn. You need to do both, because this guy is gonna, what he's gonna do is gonna be like, Avengers Endgame level or Avengers Infinity War level with Thanos, because like the thing about this villain is that they want to set him up as the next, like they want to set Thrawn up as Star Wars or the Mando versus Thanos, like the main villain of the whole thing, which is fine. But when Josh Brolin got introduced as Thanos, he was introduced sporadically throughout the MCU, and then when he really made his big debut in Infinity War, it was like, fuck, like this guy. I'm sorry, I swear, but it was like this guy means business, and you are not going to get into his way, even if you think he's gonna flinch. Oh, I think we got him. No, you're gonna fail. Thanos' resolve was so strong that he was ultimately going to win at the end of that film, right? And therefore, when you have Thrawn, who's set up as the next big villain or next Star Wars as Thanos, we need to feel that there is menace and that there's something really dark that's coming, but we don't really feel that because the show isn't really concerning itself with that. And therefore, this entire portion of the series, which is 3 episodes, right? He gets introduced in the sixth episode, isn't really strong. It really is not that strong, and I was very disappointed with that. And when it ended, I was like, well, there's so many unresolved plot threads that could have been wrapped up in the show, but they want to keep people guessing and say it's a fitting end while setting up what's next, even if there are no fitting ends while setting up what's next. Your show needs to have an ending. You can't not tease things. You can tease things for what's to come, but there needs to be like a conclusion to your story, and there isn't. And that was very disappointing in that regard. And I really, oh my God, I really hated that. It was like the most disappointing thing of the entire series. I also I really didn't like how they wrapped up some of the arcs in the show. Like the 2 best characters in the show, really compelling antagonists, Baylan Skoll, Shin Hati. Ray Stevenson passed away in May of this year, and it is sad, very sad, because he was actually shooting a film in Italy and passed away during production of that said film. And so he had so much more to give, and his career, in my opinion, had just peaked because he had starred in RRR, SS Rajamouli's RRR. He played the villain of the movie, the main villain, Governor Scott Buxton. That is, in my opinion, his best performance. The best performance that he's ever given in his entire career was RRR, and it's an absolute, like, you can't do no wrong with like SS Rajamouli. I mean, getting Ray Stevenson to star in his film is absolutely just astonishing. I've never seen what Lloyd Owen was in Thugs of Hindostan, but like I haven't really seen that happen this much, like a major star to appear in an Indian film. But I guess it must be fun to star in these movies. I don't know, but you can tell that Alison Doody and Ray Stevenson are having tons of fun in that film, and I wouldn't blame them. The film is a masterpiece, and so of course he was going to do so well as a villain in this show. And the fact that he's not necessarily a villain, he's not a Sith, he's not a Jedi, he's like in this in between of being a Sith and a Jedi, made him really interesting. And he's got a lot of really bone-chilling monologues in the show, especially in the 4th episode, that were honestly so phenomenal to watch. This guy was such a gifted actor. Such a shame that he is no longer with us, because again, he had so much more to give. And then you got Shin Hati, who is my personal favorite. Ivana Sakno, who plays Shin Hati, never heard of her before, and now I'm just like, I can't wait to see whatever she's in next. I can't wait to see her in. And throughout the entire series, she is so menacing. She doesn't even blink her eyes once. It's frightening. It's awesome. And the scenes that she shares with Sabine Wren are a little bit sexually charged, and I don't know if they're intentional or not, but a lot of people have shipped them, and yeah, you can see it. I think I saw on social media someone said it was what was it called? Sabine Hati or something like that. Anyways, it was weird. But and I don't really, I think Reylo's, I don't know, we have to stop shipping characters, but Dave Filoni kept shipping Sabine and Shin Hati. At some point they were even holding hands. It's really weird. Anyway, she is amazing. show. Like, she is so good, and really, I think, embodies what Baylan Skoll wants out of her apprentice, but also doesn't want out of her. Like, she's teetering eerily close to the Sith dark side, right? And he doesn't want her to go fully in the dark side. He wants her to be in that gray area between the two. But it is very frightening. There are two arcs end in the most disappointing fashion. So, in the 7th episode, Shin Hati battles against Sabine again. They love each other. And then Ahsoka, reaches her hand towards her and she says, you can stop this, I can help you, but she decides to leave. And you're like, okay, maybe we'll get to see a conclusion in the 8th episode. We don't. He's actually absent from the entire episode up until one of the final scenes where she's just seen joining a group of bandits. And it's like, well, that entire progression was really disappointing. And same thing with Baylan Skoll, who says that he has his own path to follow. And you're like, well, maybe he's no big fan of Thrawn. And I think, he could very well double cross Thrawn and join Ahsoka's side for once, because he knows how frightening Thrawn is and the danger that he poses to this, to this galaxy. No, he just goes to a mountain of the Mortis gods or something, and he's at the top of the mountain, and that's it. And we'll never see the character again because the actor passed away. Now, maybe he'll get recast, which I hope they don't do. I hope they'll fill in the blanks in another series. I don't know, another whatever they're gonna do next. But it was disappointing that their arcs, they take a very prominent part throughout the series, and they just don't do anything with them at the end of the series. It just felt a little wrong. Okay, so now let's talk about Anakin, because that's like one of the biggest, I guess, aspects of the show is Hayden Christensen coming back as Anakin. And not Hayden Christensen coming back as Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I gotta say, I love Hayden Christensen, but man, you were so wasted in that show, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, there was that little flashback in episode 5, which was also really terrible. But in this case, I think Hayden Christensen did a really good job as Anakin in the World Between Worlds flashbacks. The problem that I have with the cameo is that it was completely useless. First of all, the de-aging. The guy is 41 years old. He does not need to be de-aged. He looks exactly the same as he did back when Revenge of the Sith came out. Oh, I guess there's a 20-year, it's 2005. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm bad at math. That's an 18-year gap. But still, the guy looks immaculate. You don't need de-aging. That's a nitpick, but still. Secondly, we learn absolutely nothing that we already know that we didn't know before this flashback. Yes, there is a master and apprentice relationship. When they go into the World Between Worlds, they go in the Clone Wars. They got Ariana Greenblatt as Ahsoka Tano. That whole entire part of the episode was utterly pointless. Absolutely pointless. I get there's people that are like, oh my God, it's so cool to see live action Anakin with Ahsoka. Freaking out, they're like ripping their shirt out because, but like when you go beyond that reaction of just pure emotional catharsis, or I guess artificial emotion, there's absolutely nothing that this scene, or that this whole episode offers new to the table. We know the relationship between him and Ahsoka is strong, very strong. And it was, in many cases, a father-daughter relationship, right? Anakin treated Ahsoka like she was his child, right? And he was very careful with her. We all know that. And that whole flashback, even that action scene, was terrible, awful, terribly shot. It was in that this orange hue. You really couldn't see anything. And the action wasn't really as impressive as it was in the animated series, right? And they go through like 2 eras of Clone Wars battle, and they all look the same. It's like they're in different locations, they all look the same. But again, the main gripe that I have with Anakin was that he brought absolutely nothing to the table. It's like they didn't do anything to expand their their bond and their relationship. It just retreated things from the Clone Wars. I guess for people that weren't familiar with the Clone Wars, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I understand why, he says snips and whatever. But for those that have seen the Clone Wars, it does nothing except bring Hayden Christensen to the live action Star Wars universe again. And another thing was in the final shot of the show is Sabine feeling a presence. That presence turns out to be Force Ghost Anakin, who eerily resembles Force Ghost Anakin in Return of the Jedi. But in that moment, like when she feels that presence, we don't see anything. And we know that it's Anakin. It's like, yeah, she's feeling something, and it's Anakin. We don't need to see it. But the show shows it to us as if we couldn't put 2 and 2 together. And that's the thing with a lot of visual cues in Star Wars shows, especially the Filoni stuff, is that Filoni, I love Dave Filoni, but he believes the audience isn't smart enough to figure things out on their own or leave things ambiguously. He continuously shows things that don't need to be shown because, these elements of storytelling, they have to be directly told to the audience member when they don't need to be. And purposefully leaving things ambiguous also leaves room for interpretation. If nothing is ambiguous throughout the show, right, then it's boring. Then, you have nothing to discuss about. That final shot of just seeing nothing, if it would have just ended there at absolutely nothing, people would have gone, is it Anakin? Is it, someone else? Is it someone else? And people, people would have theories. But now we don't have theories because we know it's Anakin. And it's kind of lame. It is kind of lame. So there was that. So all in all, even if the flaws that I've pointed out weakened the show, I still largely enjoyed Ahsoka for what it was. The action sequences, for the most part, were really good. Rosario Dawson, Natasha Liu Bordizzo, Ray Stevenson, Ivana Sakno, even Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Hera Syndulla, even if her screen time throughout the series is quite limited, were all fantastic. All of them fantastic. There are some deep cut references that I really enjoyed as a Rebels fan, as a Clone Wars fan. I thought it was a very beautifully shot show for the most part, especially the 4th episode in the Cetos Woods. Those lightsaber battles were sensational, absolutely sensational. The score by Kevin Kiner is probably his best work yet in the Star Wars franchise. He's been working in the Star Wars ecosystem for a very long time, but I think he's peaked in this show. And also, I did enjoy to see where it was heading, even though I found the story and the main villain to be pretty dull and incomplete. So these are my thoughts on Ahsoka. I would settle on giving it a 7 out of 10. I think it is much better than the slop that we've been receiving from Star Wars lately with, Mandalorian, with Obi-Wan. I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me, but The Mandalorian is not good. The Book of Boba Fett, not good. Obi-Wan Kenobi, not good. The Bad Batch, not good. Andor, amazing. But Ahsoka, good. I enjoyed it. Thank God. Because if that show sucked, oh boy, it wouldn't have been fun to talk about it. But I'm glad that I enjoyed it, despite its flaws. And I'm glad that we finally have a good Mandoverse TV series. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of Ahsoka on the Cosmic Circus. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and visit CosmicCircus.com for more news articles, reviews, and exclusive scoops. Thank you very much, and I look forward to doing another review like this very soon.